If this message found you, it's because a part of your soul has been trying to get your attention for a long time. You've always known there was something different about you, even when you were too young to name it, even when others tried to convince you it was a flaw. That sense of being out of place, of not belonging, it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Now listen closely. This world has always tried to shape you to fit its mold. But you were born to break it. You never fit in because you weren't designed to blend. You were designed to shift the atmosphere, to awaken something ancient that's been asleep in humanity for too long. They called you too sensitive, but that was your power. They said you were too intense, but that was your frequency. You didn't lose people. You outgrew the versions of reality that kept them comfortable. And that's sign number one of being destined for greatness. You've always walked through life with the quiet ache of being different. Even in the crowd, you saw through things. You felt more than you were taught to feel. You noticed what others missed. It wasn't your imagination, it was intuition sharpening itself in secret. Chosen ones are always hidden before they are revealed. That's not punishment, that's preparation. Now think back. How many times did you try to be like everyone else, only to feel drained, lost, or false inside? That's the soul trying to whisper, this isn't your path. You were never meant to follow, you were meant to lead. But the leadership you carry isn't about ego, it's about energy. It's not loud, it's not boastful, it's encoded in your presence, it's in the way people feel around you. Like something ancient just walked in the room. Nobody tells you this, but the pain of not belonging was your initiation. Because here's the truth, greatness starts with separation. Every prophet, every sage, every revolutionary was pulled away before they rose up. It wasn't rejection, it was divine distancing. So if you're still wondering why they didn't understand you, why you were left out, why you were always too much for the room, it's because you carry something the room wasn't ready for yet. But you were sent anyway. And now, as the world begins to tremble beneath the surface of the old, your frequency is no longer too much. It's exactly what's needed. This was just sign number one. Let's continue, because if you're still here, then some part of you already knows. You're not meant for the ordinary. Now listen closely. Nobody tells you this, but the reason your path felt 10 times heavier than others isn't because you were weak. It's because your soul signed up for a higher density of growth. That's sign Destined too. Your life has felt like a pressure chamber, and you've questioned why it's been so hard, so intense, so unrelenting. But here's the raw truth. Pressure is not punishment, it's precision. The universe doesn't send gentle winds to those chosen to lead revolutions. It sends the storm. It lets everything collapse, so that nothing false can remain. This is why you've lost so much. Why certain chapters in your life ended abruptly. Why people you thought would stay forever disappeared without closure. It was never about them. It was always about you becoming unshakable. Ask yourself, how many times did life push you to the edge, only to watch you stand back up anyway? How many moments broke your heart but built your backbone? How many times did you cry out for help and no one came, because you were the one being forged to become the help others would one day cry out for? They tried to silence you, didn't they? Tried to make you small. Tried to guilt you for being too bold, too loving, too awake. But this world needed you to forget. Until now. Because here's the mystery of greatness. It hides in the furnace, in the silence, in the nights you thought were pointless. But they weren't pointless. They were initiations. Your soul was being fitted for its mission. You were learning the language of endurance. You were being prepared to hold massive spiritual weight, the kind that would crush anyone else. That's why you couldn't skip the lessons. That's why you had to feel the sting of betrayal. That's why you were isolated, so that when your light finally turned on, no one else could claim they made you. This is the moment you reclaim that story. You didn't survive by accident. You didn't hold on all this time just to blend in. You were carved by fire, so your glow would be undeniable. That pressure, it wasn't here to destroy you, it was here to activate you. And the moment you finally realized your pain was not random, your entire energy shifted. This is what makes you different from most people. Others try to avoid the pressure. but you became something sacred in it. That's not just strength, that's divine design. Now breathe deep. Let that truth settle. Sign number 3. You've always felt different, and you stopped trying to explain it. You were the kid who asked the deeper questions while everyone else was content with surface answers. You noticed energy before you had the words for it. You picked up on people's emotions before they even spoke. And over time, you learned the painful truth. Being different isn't always celebrated, it's often feared. So maybe you dimmed yourself, you shrank, you tried to normalize your gifts, to fit in, to be palatable, because standing out started to feel like a burden. But guess what? You didn't fit in because you were meant to break the mold. You weren't sent here to play the game, you were sent to rewrite it. And now you're tired of pretending. You're remembering how powerful it is to just be who you are, without filter, without guilt, without apology. And listen, nobody tells you this, but your authenticity will cost you approval, but your approval of yourself is the currency that will unlock everything you've been asking for. You were never crazy, you were just early. You've always been tuned into a frequency most people haven't accessed yet. But that's what makes you a forerunner. Now let's move to sign number 4. You've been pulled back before every major leap forward. At first, it felt like sabotage. Just when something good was about to happen, something would collapse. You'd lose momentum. You'd lose support. You'd start over. But here's what nobody told you. You weren't being rejected. You were being realigned. When you're destined for greatness, the universe won't allow you to build on shaky ground. Everything not aligned with your highest timeline has to go. So what looked like loss was actually liberation. Your delays weren't denials. They were divine setups. You weren't late. You were being calibrated to the exact frequency needed to hold what's coming. You see, everyone wants the breakthrough, but only the chosen endure the breakdowns without giving up. And you did. You kept believing. You kept healing. You kept moving forward, even when no one clapped for you. That's what makes you chosen. You have resilience in your bones. So if life's been pulling you back lately, maybe you're not failing. Maybe you're being pulled like an arrow. And the tension is proof that your launch is near. Ask yourself, can you feel it building? Because when chosen ones get silent, when they stop forcing, when they start listening, everything starts to align. And you're not imagining it. The old path is crumbling because you were never meant to walk a path that small in the first place. Now breathe. You're not just on the verge, you're in it. Sign number 5. You've been forgotten by the people you thought would never leave. People you loved stopped checking in. Old friends faded. Family grew distant. Opportunities ghosted you. And for a long time, you blamed yourself. But hear this. God will isolate those he intends to elevate. You weren't being abandoned. You were being set apart. Because where you're going, old energy can't follow. They weren't meant to come with you into this next chapter. Because they were part of the survival story, not the success one. The silence around you lately. It's sacred. It's preparation. Nobody tells you this. But the higher your calling, the quieter the climb. You were hidden on purpose. Not for punishment, but for protection. Because had they clapped too early, you might have stayed small to keep their applause. But now you're realizing you don't need their validation. You have your vibration, and it's speaking louder than ever. Sign number 6. You've experienced repeated cycles until you chose to break them. Most people don't talk about how exhausting it is to repeat the same lesson wrapped in a different disguise. Same emotions, different faces, same sabotage, different season. But at some point you snapped awake and said, "This ends with me." That's not just a choice, that's a warrior's vow. Because it's easier to repeat patterns than it is to heal them. But you stared your generational shadows in the face, and you chose to alchemize them. That's what destiny looks like. You don't just shift your own life, you shift the entire timeline of your bloodline. That is no small thing. And now, sign number 7. You feel something big is coming, and you're not scared of it anymore. In the past, the thought of success, love, abundance, it felt too far, too foreign. You wanted it, but deep down you didn't feel worthy. Maybe you were afraid you'd lose it, or mess it up. But now, there's peace, there's knowing. Something in your gut is whispering, get ready. And this time, instead of resisting, you're opening. Instead of shrinking, you're expanding. Instead of asking, why me? You're saying, why not me? That's the moment the universe recognizes you, because you recognized yourself. Chosen one, everything up to this moment was training. All the pain, the losses, the delays. They weren't punishments, they were initiations. You didn't lose your way, you were finding your alignment. And now? It's time. No more rehearsing your power in private. No more apologizing for your light. You didn't come this far to play small. You came to shift dimensions. So walk like the miracle you are. Now listen closely. The moment you started questioning everything was the moment the real you began to emerge. The day the pain became unbearable was the day your soul refused to stay asleep. You didn't just survive what was sent to destroy you. You evolved into something that couldn't be controlled. Chosen one, this world shaped you with silence, rejection, isolation, and pressure. But like a diamond, you were cut to reflect light in ways most people never will. Your loneliness was never a punishment. It was a purification. Your delays weren't denials. They were divine incubation. Nobody tells you this, but greatness often starts with grief. Grief for the life you thought you wanted. Grief for the people you lost while finding yourself. Grief for the versions of you that had to break so you could become. But make no mistake, this was never your downfall. This was your rising. You didn't fit in because you weren't meant to. You weren't built for conformity. You were designed for legacy. While others were building comfort, you were being called to capacity. You were expanding from the inside out, and that's why things felt so heavy. Because you were carrying a future that hadn't arrived yet. You were dreaming dreams that didn't belong to the now. They belonged to the next dimension of you. You were never crazy. You were just early. And now, you're right on time. Nobody teaches us how to hold power. We're taught how to perform, obey, comply, but not how to command a new reality. But you're doing it. Every step, every breath, every conscious thought is reshaping your existence. You're not wishing anymore. You're remembering. You're not asking anymore. You're activating. This is what destiny looks like. Not loud, not flashy, but solid, sacred, certain. Chosen one, jobs can pay the bills, but purpose pays the soul, and you're finally starting to recognize your soul isn't for sale. You were sent here to create, not to chase, to align, not to beg, to embody, not to escape. You're not here to follow the script, you're here to rewrite the story. The lineage, the legacy, the entire atmosphere of your bloodline is changing because of you. And that's why it's been hard, because heaven doesn't place major assignments on minor spirits. You were chosen to do what others were afraid to even speak of. Let me ask you, can you feel it now? That quiet surge in your chest? That still knowing in your spirit? That's alignment. That's truth recognizing itself. Every rejection was redirection. Every detour was divine construction. Every silence was sacred instruction. And now it's all clicking into place. You've always had the key. It was never outside of you. It was in your scars, your instincts, your resilience. It was in the moments no one clapped, but you kept going anyway. You kept walking, praying, breathing, believing. Even when you were exhausted, even when the world told you to stop. That's power, that's proof. So hear this loud and clear. You don't need validation from broken systems. You don't need permission from people who never saw your vision. You are the validation. You are the vision. You are the vessel. You are not waiting on a breakthrough. You are the breakthrough. No more shrinking. No more explaining. No more waiting for the stars to align. You are the constellation you've been seeking. From this moment on, walk like the prophecy is unfolding. Speak like every word carries codes. Move like heaven is watching, because it is. Because you're not just chosen, you're anointed. You're not just talented, you're called. You're not just aware, you're activated. This is the season where it all comes together. The pain, the patience, the perseverance. It's birthing something that can't be faked and can't be taken. So don't look back. Don't look down. Don't second guess it. You were meant to shine so brightly that your existence redefines possibility. You were meant to go first, even when it hurt. You were meant to rise, even when no one clapped. This is your confirmation. You didn't come this far to blend in. You were always chosen to break the pattern and rebuild the promise. And you did. If this stirred something in you, don't just scroll away. This wasn't a coincidence. This was your reminder. Share this divine message with someone who carries that same frequency. They need this too. And subscribe if you want more messages like this, straight from source. Because you're not just rising, you're rising beyond.